Your dreams are bigger, bolder, and more badass than the life you're living now, but something just keeps getting in the way. Join certified coach and former therapist Diane Wingert for the Driven Woman podcast. She'll show you how to get rid of whatever is holding you back so you can stop spinning your wheels and up-level your life. Get ready to hop in and buckle up. This is the Driven Woman podcast, and we're heading for the fast lane.
Well, hello and welcome back to my fellow driven woman. I have something very, very special for you today. A conversation with one of my favorite clients, Nora Wagner. You know, for years, I have been telling people daily cardio exercise is the best way to get your brain game on. But it wasn't until I met Nora and started working with her that I found out strength training is actually the ultimate focusing tool. You see, Nora is a former Olympic weightlifter. Yes, you heard that right. She also has a doctorate in physical therapy, is a brand new entrepreneur, and yes, a driven woman with ADHD. In this client success story interview, Nora and I will talk about how strength training provided the discipline, the routine, and the structure that prevented her from even knowing she had ADHD until she stopped lifting weights. Why it's so important to find the occupation that you can fall madly in love with in order to leverage your ADHD gifts and create success on your terms. How during our coaching together, we uncovered Nora's limiting beliefs and how they were affecting the choices she was making in her career and life, and what she's been doing since, and why showing up unapologetically makes all the difference so that we stop playing small to make others more comfortable. Well, I cannot wait to introduce you to Nora. But first, as always, this week's 5-star podcast review. This one is from Nicole R. Parker, who says, "Want to be truly helped? Here's more. Diane's down-to-earth style and understanding of ADHD are evident in the way she challenges you to reach higher, but also reminds you to be kind to yourself. You will find many practical tips and strategies, as well as inspiration in her content. She puts in the work, is passionate about what she does, and it shows." Well, thank you so much for this wonderful review, Nicole R. Parker, and Driven Women, I won't make you wait any longer. Here is my client success story interview with one of my favorite clients, Nora Wagner. Enjoy. If you've been a mother and you have more than one child, you would probably never want to admit that you have favorites. And I love all my clients, but I'm going to admit I have some favorites. And one of them is my guest today. And she knows it. I see her laughing in the background. We are being joined today on the Driven Woman podcast by none other than Dr. Nora Wagner, who is in the Chicago area as a physical therapist. When I first connected with Nora and I found out that she is a former Olympic weightlifter with a PhD in physical therapy, I literally could not wait to get my hands on her. And she proved to be one of the most exciting clients I have ever worked with because she put things into action the moment she learned them. And that's really the key. Like, you can learn and learn and learn, but if you're not taking action, Jackson, nothing changes. So I'm so excited to welcome Nora, and it's so good to see you again.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I've been like waiting for this day since you emailed me and reached out to schedule it. It was like I had like a countdown on my phone. I'm so excited.
That's so good. So good. Well, you were diagnosed with ADHD. I think you were 31 and you're now 34. So we worked together when you were about 2 years into the diagnosis and didn't really know what it meant. Let's tell the listeners, like, you're a super smart lady. You are a total badass and very well educated. How did you even know that you had ADHD, and what prompted you to sort that out and actually get a diagnosis?
Oh man. So I learned the hard way, my own history. It started when I was a competitive Olympic weightlifter for years, all throughout my 20s, working full-time as a physical therapist. For the most part, I felt pretty on top of my game. And then when life got busy, you get older, responsibilities start putting weightlifting kind of on the back burner. I kind of hung up my shoes for a while. That's what weightlifters say. I hung up my shoes and went to coaching. I couldn't commit full-time training anymore. And that's when I really felt, as soon as I dialed back on the weightlifting, which honestly at a high level, you're putting in about 20 to 25 hours a week. So it's like a part-time job.
Yeah.
So when I started dialing back on that, I felt like I couldn't keep anything together. I felt so unorganized. I felt scattered. I felt like I had all this unused energy.
Because you did.
Yeah, I was just bottled up, and there was just no way to get it out. It was coming out at work. It was coming out in my personal relationships. And I was just getting more feedback from all my immediate family members and from my former relationship being like, Nora, how could you forget it's your own mom's birthday today? Like, I was like, oh, Facebook reminded me that it's my mom's birthday. Oh my God. And like, everyone's like, how could you forget that? How is your own mom's birthday? Or Nora, didn't you remember, like, we have the party to go to tonight? What do you mean? Like you're off doing something else already. Like, I'm texting you, like, where are you? You're supposed to be here. So it was all of a sudden, like, I just couldn't keep track of any events. I was showing up late to work. I felt just really unfocused with my patients, just that kind of ADHD oversharing your personal life. Like, wait, you're supposed to be working on my back. Why are you telling me about...
Like, why are we talking about you?
Like, can you bill for this? Yeah. and so then I'm like, you know what? I started getting really self-conscious. I feel like I started to kind of recluse, and I was almost scared to make a wrong step everywhere that I went. So when I would talk to some doctors, they were like, oh, it's just anxiety. It's just anxiety. And so
that's always the go-to. That if you are a high achiever, high performer, high ability woman, and you start expressing these sort of symptoms, the first place everybody goes to, most therapists, most doctors, most psychiatrists, is, well, you're stressed out because you expect so much of yourself. You're an overachiever. You're type A. Like, that just sort of, you probably just need to dial things down. And you're like, next. You don't get it.
So I went along with it for a few months. About 6 months, I tried, anti-anxiety meds, and they were like, take these anti-anxiety meds and schedule yourself a vacation. That's what you need. And I was like, yeah, these meds aren't really doing anything for me. And so they're like, okay, well, let's switch. Let's do this. And actually, if it wasn't for one of my counselors I worked with, she was like, I don't really think that this is anxiety. I think, have you ever been evaluated for ADHD? And I was like, when I was in high school, I had teachers bring it up, but it kind of got dismissed by my parents and went unfounded. So maybe it's time to revisit that. So she recommended a doctor I still see now who's awesome. And as soon as I, explained my history and what was going on, she was like, oh yeah, like typical. Yep. You are textbook, and you self-medicated with weightlifting. That was the way you stay regulated. So
yes. And I think it's such an important point that really needs to be shared, is that, when people say, oh, well, all of a sudden there's all these high profile sports figures who are like coming out with ADHD, Michael Phelps and Simone Biles, a lot of them are gymnasts and swimmers. I've worked with a lot of both. And what do we know about those sports? I don't know as much about Olympic weightlifting, but there's a lot of discipline, there's a lot of routine, there's a lot of regulation, and your habits are so dialed in and consistent that it's almost like your religion. And I don't think we really realize whether it's a really rigid sports discipline or something that's required by the job that you do, but all those executive functions that we struggle with, it's almost like they're externally provided by that structure of the weightlifting, the swimming, the gymnastics, the whatever. And when we step away from that, just completely lost because you didn't know that you had any of those struggles because it was all provided for you. You just had to show up.
Yeah. And that I think nothing is going to make you take out the external stimuli that is normally distracting to you when you're stepping up to a barbell that weighs more than your body weight and you're going to try and throw it over your head and hope that it doesn't kill you. I mean, you kind of got to really pick and choose what you're going to focus on at that point. And I think that's why I loved it so much, is because when I had the barbell in my hand, it was like I was free from my daily life. I was free from my life worries. I wasn't thinking about anything else but just the present moment in weightlifting. And then, of course, the weightlifting itself just tired me out physically. I felt like I got sleep. And so it really just kept me regulated 24/7. I had to stay disciplined to compete. So I had to keep myself on a schedule and a regimen, and I can't miss this workout today because it's going to put me back, You
had to get enough sleep, you had to eat right, you had to hydrate,
Exactly.
And all of that stuff serves the ADHD brain really well. I mean, there are a lot of people like, oh, just give me the pill. You and I both know the pill helps, but there's no magic there. Right. You need the structure, the systems, the habits, the routines, the removal of distractions and toxic people. There's so many ways to manage yourself, meditation, all of that. But the pill alone, it'll just mean you're going to persist longer at whatever you point your brain at, but you might still be pointing your brain at stupid shit that doesn't really take you anywhere. So while you were training as a weightlifter, you were also getting a PhD in physical therapy. Like, did you do well in school? Did you ever struggle there? Or was it more of the same where you knew what was expected of you? It was interesting to you and you just kept putting one foot in front of the other. First you sign up for the class, then you take the midterm, then you take the finals, then you sign up for the next classes. And of course, you, like me, are very focused on challenging yourself to do the best you can. Did you ever struggle with any of what was required of you to go that far, like your dissertation, for example?
No, I didn't. And I think that's the thing. Again, I think working with you, like, it's easy to get a diagnosis and then try to piece together yourself how it manifested. But when you work with a specialist like yourself and you see reflected in your conversations how this actually came about and why you are so good at what you do. I almost consider myself so lucky I found this profession. I can't see myself doing anything else, but like, I just think about in, college or high school or whatever, I was just a rocket at science, just loved it. That was my topic. And so just naturally I was interested in the human body. Took me down. So anytime you started talking about the human body, you had my interest, and I perked right up, and you had everything dialed in, almost as the same as that weightlifting meet in front of hundreds of people. So I was very fortunate that I was so good, and when I could go into that hyper focus mode, it served me very well in school. It kept me on a straight trajectory and kept the long term goals in mind. It's like the other stuff, like English class. Oh my God. And I hate saying this because my mom's an English teacher. So I'm like, we just didn't relate at all on this. Like, she's like, Nora, I don't understand how you're barely passing English, but you got recommended by your high school to go to some fancy science lab for, science careers in search of women. And like, all, she's like, I just don't get it. You're not my child. And
it's so funny how parents always think their child is going to be a mini-me. Yeah. And yet, every time a sperm and an egg unite, it's a genetic lotto, and you might get all the recessive and negative traits of both people rolled into one, and nobody saw that coming. We always expect our child to be just like us, but you are such a good example, Nora, of being able to find something that you utterly, completely, and on a long-term basis fell in love with. You continue to be fascinated by the human body and by overcoming challenges of the human body. I personally think that women like us are really good problem solvers.
Yeah.
And where most people will look at something challenging and get frustrated and not even want to try, the more challenging, we talked about this, the more challenging, the more obtuse, the more other people are walking away and saying, yeah, no, I'm out. That's when you are at your best. You are like, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses.
Yes.
Give me the cases that you have all given up on and walked away from. That's my jam.
Yeah. Yep. And that's my specialty now. That is what drove me actually to go into my own practice, which is why I reached out to you in the first place. So I knew I had all this ADHD. I was, I'm like, okay, I'm finally ready. I feel like the stuff that I do is just so, it's so advanced. It's so, I don't want other people, well, not necessarily. I contracted at clinics and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of them getting the credit. I kind of want the credit. So I'm like, time to go into my own business. I'm like, but wait a second.
Yes.
I'm worried about actually doing the bookkeeping type stuff that's extremely boring and not interesting to me. So I'm like, let's see what's
scheduling. Well, actually, one of the things that I would love to talk about with you, Nora, and I think was really fascinating and exciting for me in our work together was, any number of ADHD coaches can teach people how to be more organized, how to develop systems, how to develop structures and routines that support them, how to overcome limited thinking, how to have more confidence and so forth. And there's any number of people that are great at that. And that's not my jam. My jam is the really high ability, high potential women who haven't fully accepted and embraced who they are and are able to say, I know that I'm ridiculously good at something, but I don't even know how that's possible. Like I got the same training as everyone else. I may work harder than other people. I may be more disciplined and more focused, but I have some kind of a special magical ability through intuition to see the nature of the problem and to connect dots that other people may not connect or may not even see the dots. And I think it was one of the things that I really loved about working with you is that you were just starting to really accept your true giftedness. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was causing for you was like sort of self-consciousness that I'm really exceptionally gifted in this way, not just skilled, but actually gifted. Like I somehow have the gift to look at these kids and to look at what's wrong with them and to see potential that other people don't see and to see how to unleash that in a way that was kind of like you really enjoyed doing it, but it also made you really self-conscious and kind of uncomfortable with possible professional jealousy, which is kind of one of my favorite topics, like just dealing with that. Like, how do we lean into our giftedness when other people notice and then start comparing? I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, it's so funny that you just mentioned that because here I am thinking, I wonder if Diane can help me with these sort of formalities of behind the business when honestly, the big picture had nothing to do with that. It really had everything to do with stepping into my own and really just owning what I have. And the best way I could say it is showing up unapologetically. Just, this is who I am. I'm good at what I do. I own it. And I think what you really helped me do was change my own narrative because I didn't even realize my own narrative was keeping me small. Mm-hmm. Just stay small. Don't make other people uncomfortable with the talent of your job. So just downplay yourself, and to me that was, you're just being humble. Right. And it was really like, no, you're playing small. You're playing small and you're staying small because you don't like the attention, whether it be good or bad. You don't want to find out what's behind door number one. So just don't even knock.
But that's so interesting because you were on your way to the Olympics. Like a few people watched that event. So it's just fascinating how complicated we all are in that there's a part of you, Nora, that I think really enjoys being in the spotlight because you know you're special. But at the same time, it's like, is it okay to just know that? And does that make me a big asshole? Like, does that make me a narcissist? Does that make me a bad person if I can recognize I have these very special gifts and I choose to use them in service to others? Like, it's interesting that feels so fraught with fear of, well, I mean, what were your fantasies? Like, what did your brain tell you? Like, oh, I better not, like really embrace my sheer badassery because, like, what did you think would happen?
I think I guess just when you're dealing with in weightlifting, when you're kind of dealing with the caliber of other good weightlifters, and you see some of them come off confident, and then some of them come off arrogant. And the same thing in the professional field. Some people come off really, really confident. Some people are really arrogant. And I think my fear was that I would come off to people as arrogant, full of myself, have a big head, think that the ground I walked on was so different than others. And I was always just very fearful, I guess, of appearing that way to other people instead of realizing you could just come off as confident.
Well, did you have, and we've talked about, you had role models. One gentleman in particular, we talked about a few times, where you perceived him as skilled, experienced, gifted, and confident, but not arrogant. It was one of the things that you found very attractive. But do you think one of the things I talk about a lot is the gender biases that we all live with? Particularly with women, we tend to be identified much later in life with ADHD. The way women are socialized, we tend to expect ourselves to be good at relationships, good at like managing a home, good at organizing things and getting things done. And when we're not, we oftentimes feel very ashamed of that and very apologetic about that. So it's almost, I've seen this happen with many women. It's like if we allow ourselves to like claim our place in the world as someone who has something to offer, but behind the scenes, we can't pull off a 3-course meal or remember our mom's birthday, like something bad is going to happen to you. Like you don't deserve this success because you're kind of a hot mess in other areas of your life.
Yeah, it's almost like if I had the spotlight on me for professional achievement or athletic achievement, it would almost expose everything that I don't have together. So it was like, it's not worth the risk of, trying to come out and, celebrate yourself because I wasn't perfect. And I was like, well, that might just shine the spotlight that she's not perfect. And I feel like women are always more scrutinized for what they fall short in rather than their accomplishments. So I didn't want to, it was almost like
take that risk.
Yeah. So it's like, what is it back in the day, the Salem witch trials, like the women who were they thinking and progressive, they must have been possessed. So you had to drown them.
It's so true. In fact, I think, sometimes we think, oh, I must have limiting beliefs. Oh, it's because of my childhood upbringing. Oh, it's because of this or that. But I think women have watched hundreds of years of history, how those who stand out get punished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, if you don't believe that, just go on TikTok and see what some of the things are being said about our brand new first female vice president, just because she's a woman, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even though I know you still have moments where you think it's really awkward when I do my job so well that other people might be jealous, but it's no longer holding you back. What do you think made the difference? Because since we've talked, you went from earning most of your income working for others in a contract basis to now really going full speed ahead with your business. You've got a fantastic website, which, by the way, everything about Dr. Nora's business, her social media, and even some podcast interviews she's done, all of those links will be in the show notes. You want to follow her, keep your eye on this woman. You really let yourself just go for it. Worries, fears, insecurities, concerns about other people being jealous, but you did it. Let's talk about what enabled you to do that. Like, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah, I think here's the thing about when I was thinking back to the idea of playing small or not ruffling feathers or drawing attention to myself, I was exhausted. I didn't have any more reserve, normal life balance things. I would bring that exhausted energy home. I would show up as, cranky and, just leave me alone, very like Grinch-like almost, like I don't want to feel anything anymore. Right. And so I was giving my attention, the valuable attention, which now I kind of put that equal to energy. So where your attention is, where your energy is going.
Yep.
And my attention, I was giving, if I started out with 100% every morning, 80% of that was going to playing small, don't ruffle the feathers, don't stick out. And
worrying about what other people are thinking, which, by the way, you have zero control over, no matter how hard you try.
Right. People pleasing. Saying yes to other people before myself, even if that put deadlines back or whatever, if I couldn't go work out that night, I would just sacrifice that because I said yes to somebody. I was going to show up for them. I was just learning that at the end of the day, there was nothing left. There was nothing left over for me. I wasn't enjoying it. So that's when I said, you know what, screw this. I guess here I am, world, take it or leave it. I don't care. And I just realized that all that attention that I was giving to my old self of not wanting to stand out and caring what people thought about me, it was almost like, you know what, you do it once where you're like, okay, today I don't even care. If this comes along, this is what I'm going to say to myself. I don't care. That's their problem or whatever. And it felt so invigorating. It felt so freeing. I felt like there was 1,000,000 pounds lifted off of me and I could really just go do what I wanted to. So it really gave me the professional advantage because as soon as I did that, it's kind of funny. I feel like the universe just handed me all the patients that I've been dreaming about. And because I have the energy reserve now to give them that attention, to focus on my talent, to say, here I am, let me help as many people and touch as many lives as I can. And I'm not going to apologize for any of it. So I think my energy shifts now every day. The old me, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, oh God, what do I got to do today?
You're tired before you start, right?
It's going to bother me. What am I going to forget today? The language was so toxic to where I would sit on, Instagram in the morning for like a half hour and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be late.
Because that's so inspiring, right?
And I'm just like, I don't even care. And again, because I was giving attention to where it didn't need to be given, especially first thing in the morning. So, and now I'm like, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, I get to see this patient today. I wonder, since last week, I know I can't wait to hear about a celebration or whatever. And I'm just really looking forward to the day now. And I'm just building on that momentum.
Well, you made some very specific changes to how you use your mornings based on our work together, because it was kind of like I have the same concept that I start the day like a fully charged battery. And as I go through the day, different things either kind of charge it back up again or slowly drain it. There are certain people, certain types of environments, certain situations that like take a big hit on the battery and drain it rapidly. And other things just maybe boost it a little bit. But the way you were living your mornings in the past, it was like before you would even go out and start serving your patients and your families, you were already feeling kind of depleted. And if there was any time for Nora, it only came at the very end of the day after everyone else had been served. And my image for you was like, there's this like long line of people waiting, with they've all pulling their number off the machine and like now serving number 137. And you're just like, and of course, after everyone had been served, then there's you. But by that time, your battery is at 0%. So what do you do now in your morning that's different than what you used to do before we kind of fix that?
So it's so funny that I still think about that old morning routine, and I just laugh because I just remember the way that you and I scheduled my new mornings is just so much more beneficial. So like you said, the old me, I would see people or I would go to work and I would do this and do that and do everything for everyone all day long. And then I literally I was like, I don't even have any kids and I feel like exhausted. Like I feel like the only time I get is after everyone's bedtime.
And you were even missing a lot of meals. Like I remember on a number of occasions, you telling me that like coworkers would give you like an energy bar because they're like, I don't think I've seen you eat anything all day. And you're like, I don't have time for this.
Right. Yeah. I would have coworkers that asked me the last time I ate and what did I bring for lunch and what was I planning on for lunch? Because they're like, I love them. They always look out for me. But it was to that level where I'm just like, I don't have time to eat. I don't have time to go to the bathroom. Like, I got to go. I felt like, what's his name? In Alice in Wonderland, the guy who,
I'm late for a very important date. Yeah.
That was me. I was just running around. And then by the time I finally stopped running, I was like, well, I feel like I need to do something for myself today. And it would be so late at night. And I like reading. I like reading journals and, topics of interest to the point where like now I would go down that rabbit hole because now I have hyper focus and now I'm like justifying it by saying, well, I'm doing something for myself today.
Yes.
And then I wouldn't go to sleep until like 1 o'clock in the morning. I wake up, with sleep deprived and wondering why I still feel tired from yesterday. So one of the things that we changed in my routine, which has made all the difference in the world, is I start, I used to be a huge workout, in the morning type person. And then when, life kind of was running me or running my, whatever, life was running me, I wasn't running life. I feel like I was just too tired to get up and work out. I knew
which is so amazing for an athlete.
Yeah. And the language was like, Nora, you're going to feel better. This is the best time. You love to work out in the morning before the day happens. It's one less thing to do today, Nora. Like you get it done, even trying to bribe myself with that. And it just wasn't working. So once I finally committed back to working out in the mornings, and then your recommendation was whatever the journal reading, the topic of interest reading, do that right after your workout. And you get a whole hour to your day.
You come first.
Right.
The line forms behind you.
Right. And so it was like, fill your own cup first. And so that has made all the difference. Just even, and people closest to me, coworkers and family, they picked up on it right away. They were like, you're in a good mood today. Like, you're like, you haven't been stressed at all this week. Like you've been on top of your deadlines. You've been doing this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I feel pretty good today. Like it was palpable to other people when I was taking care of myself. And I was putting myself first.
And it's like your life is no less busy, Nora. As a matter of fact, remember we were first talking about, so the goal is eventually you're going to have your own business. And I said, what do you think your timeline is? Do you remember what you told me first? You're thinking?
Did I say 3 years?
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. I said, cut it in half and that'll be, more like it. And I said, as a matter of fact, I think you can have a full private practice within a year. And you were like, oh, no. I'm like, mark my words. And I think, you're thinking that all these customers are coming, I don't know what you're thinking, what kind of magic happened, but I think it was that the universe was waiting to deliver and you just needed to stop putting your arms across the doorway and holding it back. It was like the demand was there. People were already hearing about you and how you work. You weren't doing any marketing. You weren't promoting yourself. People were hearing and they were spreading the word. And it was almost like, yeah, well, I'm like, 3 years? What the hell? Like, no. What do you need to move to be ready now? Mm-hmm. And you got serious about moving some things out of the way. And it literally just like happened. When I saw your new website, I'm like, son of a gun, she's doing it.
Yeah.
And how is it? Has it been harder, easier, different than you thought it would be? Just really allowing it to happen and going with it?
I love every minute of it. I love my patients. And it's so funny. I didn't even, make a formal announcement, not even on Facebook. Some therapists, that know about me and stuff. As soon as they said, "Hey, I heard you're going out on your own. Is that true?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, when are you planning on doing that?" I'm like, "Well,
3 years.
It should be, my business should be up and running. Like legally, I can see people in July." And then they were like, "Oh, okay." And then literally as soon as like one or two therapists checked in with me, all of a sudden I just had this influx of people. "Hey, I got someone I got to send to you. Hey, I got someone to send to you." And then down the line, like 4 people far removed from those therapists were like, "Hey, can I ask you a question about my patient?" And then they're like, "You know what? They're just better for you." And it was almost like I feel like a month, I had a wait list. And I didn't even do any marketing. I had I didn't pay a dime toward advertising. And I had a wait list being like, "I'm sorry, but I'm not taking a new patient for another 3 months at least. I'll get back to you." And it was crazy. I was like,
"Hey, listen, nobody likes a know-it-all. But did I or did I not freaking tell you this is what was going to happen?"
You were 100% spot on. And
but it's so exciting to see what is possible for women like us when we realize just because we're different doesn't mean we're less than. We don't need to be like the others. We can do what we're really good at. And if other people are going to be jealous, they're going to be jealous anyway. And you're making yourself small. A, doesn't make them any less jealous, and B, doesn't change how amazing you are. I think the other thing you've done extremely well is you stop thinking that you need to be good at all the things and realize it is more than enough to be good at the thing you're really good at, because you can hire people to do that other stuff. And I think, you know that even though this all feels very thrilling and very exciting, we both know this is just the beginning. If you wouldn't mind indulging me, let's talk a little bit about the big picture and the thought leadership that you finally have embraced and realize is your destiny. Because just seeing patients in a private practice, that's not the end game for you, is it?
It's funny because at first I said I would never own my own practice. And now I own my own practice. And I would say, I'm never going to take it any more than just treating patients. And now I'm thinking about how can I start my own
institute.
Yeah, exactly. Even like training other therapists, having a certification with my name that I am, I haven't thought of the name yet, but I'm certified in this technique or whatever the case may be. And really just helping other therapists help their patients the way I help mine. Mm-hmm. So
because you do have something special. Yeah. And if your real goal is, I'm here to make a difference, I'm here to have an impact, and I want to help as many people as I can, there's only so much of you to go around. So the best way to help as many people as possible is to teach other people to do what you do.
Mm-hmm. And I think you said it so well. You really made me think about it. To take that next step long-term in my career was when you're good, people are only going to want you, and you're not always going to be available. So what are you going to do then? And I'm like, oh, that's a really good point. I guess I am going to be kind of handcuffed to just serving these people who only want to see me. And yeah, that doesn't sound very, the whole reason you go into your practice is so that you can have some more freedom. And it doesn't feel very free. So I was like, okay, I guess I do need other people on board with this.
Yeah, and then the challenge, and hopefully we will work together again in the future. But the initial challenge is, how can I just accept who I am and how I am and know that that's absolutely perfect and I don't have anything to apologize for. But then it's like, okay, well, now I see that people are really responding to that. So how do I leverage that so I can help more people without totally depleting myself? Eventually, instead of being worried about people being jealous of you, the next hurdle will be giving up control. Mm-hmm. Because nobody can be you. And if they don't do it exactly the way you do it, but it now has your name on it, I see you laughing because you know exactly this will be a nice little hurdle for us to work through in the future.
Yeah. I feel like I've started to pick my nails just thinking about it.
But, you may have heard the expression new level, new devil. Mm-hmm. And I think I can confidently say, Nora, that both of us have accepted that we are on the path of continuous personal evolution. Yeah. We're never going to stop learning. We're never going to stop growing. And we're never going to stop improving on ourselves. We're never going to quit climbing. And obviously, the higher you go, the farther you have to fall, the fewer the fellow travelers, and you might get some, what is the altitude sickness? Yeah. But I think ultimately it is all mind. It's all mindfulness. It's all managing your mind. It's not a matter of how talented you are or how educated you are or how many certifications you have or even whether you have ADHD or not. Mm-hmm. Is, do you accept that your path is the path of continuous personal evolution and you don't need anyone's approval for that, nor will anyone give it to you. You must give it to yourself. It's the only way it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how do people find you? Because I'm sure they're going to want to know what's your website, name of your business, and what social platform do you appear the most on?
Yeah, so the name of my business is Physio Links, and the whole founding of that name is it reflects exactly how I practice. Is that the body is a multi-system organism and not just bones and muscles that people traditionally think of PT. So you have a lot of different body systems that are integrated and can drive motor patterns, and that can be leading to your impairment. So my whole job is to identify what system is your weakest link or your missing link. And and that's how we link it, right, to your optimal potential. So Physio Links is the name. PhysioLinksPT.com is the website. And then you can find me on Facebook at Physio Links or Instagram, which is where I feel like the most interactive with is Physio_links.
I'll make sure we have links to all of that in the show notes. What's next for you, Dr. Nora? Have you got something new and exciting that you're moving towards? Because obviously we always have to have a goal.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's just, again, it reflects on just accepting your ADHD and, not using it as a punitive thing in your life. I also have I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist with the National Strength and Conditioning Association. And I do personal training. I have been gearing it all towards kids with ADHD and finding exercise that works for them. And wouldn't you know it, they all love the weightlifting.
Isn't that amazing? And I think there have been so many people that stress the importance of cardio, including me. I just got a Peloton bike because I love the cardio, but I never got serious about weightlifting. So maybe you need to do some research, write a study, and you might even convert me at this late state of the game. So
yeah, that's
fun. Amazing. And wouldn't it be great if you could get that into schools? Because God, they've done away with PT and all the kids are having trouble sitting still because that's not what we're made for.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of times the parents, I'm telling you, the parents that I work with would be training these kids. They say, hey, these are kids with ADHD. My youngest is 8 years old. And then I have a big population of boys, which can be a tough population to work with.
Yes.
On days that I come, those kids are getting themselves out of bed. They're doing their morning routine. They're doing everything their mom and dad nags them about because they know I'm coming that day and they want to be ready. So, I mean, it just goes to show that is something, underneath the weightlifting, we do a lot of changing self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then
paying it forward.
Yeah. And I also think that, I think it's good for parents to see someone like myself come in and be like, hey, this girl's pretty successful and she has ADHD. Like I've seen if anything, kids would, they're just stunned that I just come out right there and say, I got ADHD too. I know how it goes. Like I totally feel it. Like I can see you struggle with this. Is that right? And they're like, yeah, oh my God, like you have it too. And I'm like, yeah. And look, I'm accomplished and all this stuff. So it's like, so forget that those polarizing words that make up the diagnosis. Like you do have a shot at life. We're going to find what you're good at. And, we're going to, we'll take it to the sky's the limit. Right. And so I really just love changing their outlook and then also changing the parents' outlook.
Yes.
Really learning how to talk with them about it. So
yes, because a lot of times first of all, a lot of parents never knew that their kid was struggling in any way until they start getting all those not so friendly calls from the school. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the reasons why the parents didn't know is because one or both of them has ADHD. So when the kid gets identified or called out as being disruptive at school, or then the parents are like, oh, shoot, first they think, oh, is it bad parenting? And then they are like, wait a second, it's genetics. Either way, I'm on the hook. So when you show that kid not only how to improve his or her life and change the way they think about themselves, you're doing that for their parents as well. And if the grandparents are still alive, I have heard of conversations that are going back a couple of generations saying, Mom, I know you're 72 years old, but I swear to God, you have ADHD. Let's talk. Yeah. So I think it's a fantastic conversation to be a part of, and you are truly changing lives, and I'm very happy to be part of your path. So thank you for coming on the show and sharing all your fantastic wisdom and insight, and I'm going to see you later.
Yeah, you will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, it's Diane. Can I be honest with you? At the beginning of each new year, I always told myself, this is the year I'm going to get my habits dialed in. This is the year I'm going to be crystal clear about my goals and I'm going to crush them. This is the year I'm going to get my shit together on every level and I'm going to do it all by myself. Been there, done that, got a whole stack of t-shirts. But it wasn't until I started working with my own coach that I realized what a difference it makes to have guidance, support, and accountability from someone who's not only like-minded, but like-brained. Yeah, I'm talking about another driven woman, entrepreneur, who also has ADHD and has got it going on. I have 2 openings in my signature one-on-one 12-week coaching program, and one of them might have your name on it. There's a link to a free consult with me in the show notes if you think this might be the year that you really get serious and go all in on an ADHD-friendly business and life. While you're thinking about that, have a listen to what one of my clients' success stories has to say about the difference it made to work with me.
Well, one thing that you helped give me insight on is how sensitive I am. And because I'm an empath, being in traffic and loud noises throughout the day, just getting to home, that alone was really draining. And now working from home, it's like I'm able to conserve that energy and working with the parents to really teach them kind of concepts and bigger things that have a bigger impact. Because one thing that you also mentioned was because I was working so much, I didn't have time to do the things that were meaningful to me. And that included learning, getting into the grind. You kind of just like, okay, well, I'm just going to do instead of really stepping back and looking at, more strategic ways to have, a longer term plan.
You've been listening to the Driven Woman podcast with Diane Wingert. Want more straight talk and strategy each week that will take you from spinning to winning? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your podcast player so you won't miss a single episode. Then head on over to the Driven Woman free and private Facebook group community. See you there.